I mean, it's quite remarkable to me that in the West, being pro-life and being publicly or vocally pro-life is the thing that makes you, quote unquote, a bad guy. Like, you can't really have a greater inversion than that.
We're working on changing that.
Yeah.
Because it's so absolutely insane.
It's
Children
insane,
are
right?
the most beautiful blessing and gift, and pregnancy is a blessing and gift, and the hatred for the unborn child, to the point that 2,500 children are killed every single day in America by abortion.
Yeah, and it's so to answer your question of why am I pro-life, the reason I'm pro-life is because to be, you know, quote unquote pro-choice, pro-abortion rights is probably the most accurate way of saying it. It means you either have to deny the humanity of the child in the womb and say this is not really a human, or this is not alive, or this is not a person, or, you know, you hear people say this is a parasite, it's just a clump of cells, whatever it is. That is biologically illiterate. That's not an honest position rationally nor scientifically, especially in the age of people having ultrasounds and 4D scans and all this kind of stuff, right? We all know this is a human being in an early stage of life. Anyone who's honest knows. Even people who call themselves, you know, pro-choice or who support abortion, whatever, they know that when they or their female friend is pregnant, no one's going to a fetus shower. No one asks a woman how her clump of cells is doing if they see that she's pregnant. No one says, oh, how's your little parasite in there? No one even speaks in that language unless the child is not wanted, right? Everyone knows it's a baby unless they don't want it. And that's logically, rationally, biologically, it's absurd. As someone who does their best to be intellectually honest, I can't suddenly flip-flop between back and forth of, oh, it's a baby, it's not a baby. Like, it's a baby. We know it's a baby. And then, so that's the first part. And then the second part is, if you're intellectually honest and you accept this is a human being, this is a living human being who's at an early stage of life and will grow, you then have to say that it is sometimes okay to intentionally and directly take an innocent human life, primarily for selfish reasons in the vast majority of cases. And that morally does not sit right with me. I don't think it's right to intentionally take an innocent human life. So for that reason, I'm pro-life. That's it. It's actually a fairly simple one. It's like, this is a human life. This is a human being. This is an innocent child. And it is wrong to intentionally and directly take an innocent human life. I believe that at all life stages. It's a very consistent view. I don't need to like do any mental judo or, you know, be hypocritical or flip-flop on these things or whatever. And so I naturally became pro-life. I think I always, on a moral and an ethical level, I always probably have been, but I didn't expressly become pro-life until my late 20s. Simply because I never thought about it. I just didn't think about the issue, right? I never liked the idea of abortion. I was always like, yeah, that's killing a baby. Actually, on my very first single, I literally have a lyric where I say, I'm talking about my rapping skills, and I literally say, I'm deadly like abortion is. Nice. And that song's from 2006. So it's always been in me like, okay, yeah, this is kind of killing. But I literally didn't think about it. I was never put in a position where I even had to think about it.
What made you start thinking about it at
do you know
late 20s?
Do you know what it was? I think something had happened. It was something that was going. I was living in the UK at the time, and I think one of the states in the US had passed some bill around it. I think it was Georgia had passed some bill, and there was a massive
to liberalize it or to criminalize it, or to make it legal?
I think to restrict it.
To restrict
it, I think to restrict it to once there's a heartbeat.
Probably Georgia, yeah.
Maybe Georgia, as this is about 6 years ago or something. And this led to a massive public conversation about it. And people even in the UK were talking about it. Because again, we're so interconnected now that if something happens in the US, immediately people in Canada, UK, Australia, whatever, are talking about it. So I was just seeing all these conversations going on. And I was like, sometimes I have an afternoon where I will just research something, right? There's something I am hearing about, and I'll just be like, all right, let me find out more about this issue. So I literally spent an afternoon of just learning more about this subject, listening to arguments on both sides of it, listening to debates. Haunts me to this day, but I actually watched a D&E, dilation and evacuation abortion, like a real one.
How did you find that video?
On the internet.
Was it a live video or an animation?
No, it was live. It was a real one. And I saw, okay.
Was it Center for Bioethical Reform?
Boy. It was actually from a documentary, I believe. What was it called? It was whoever made The Silent Scream. I watched that one, which I think was a first trimester one. And then they did a follow-up. I think it was called, not Beyond the Edge of Reason, but something, whatever the sequel to that was.
I think there's a group called the Center for Bioethical Reform. They're actually California-based here too, in Southern California. And they've actually gotten the live footage of abortions from abortionists.
Okay.
Because otherwise we wouldn't even have that content. I mean, no one would know that this is what happens because the abortionist is certainly not going to like publicize it on his YouTube channel.
No.
So it's pro-life activists that got it ultimately from an abortion clinic, and it's probably the footage you saw was because it was like you see the birth canal,
you see
and
the whole, yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely you see the body parts of the child.
You see the whole thing, yeah. So I'm glad I watched it. I'm also like I'm not even someone who's that squeamish at all. Right. And I was like, holy crap, like this is what they're doing. And, people don't even know that. Right. And then, I'd seen images before of, a fetus post-abortion at different stages and whatever. Like I've seen the imagery. Like I don't shy away from stuff. If I want to really learn what something is, I'm not cool with just, let's just have euphemisms and fuzzy language. And I'm like, I want to see like what we're actually dealing with here, right? You all are saying, clump of cells, not a human, whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is a literal baby, right? This is a baby you've just butchered and is all bloody and whatever on the table, chopped to pieces. Like, this is what you're supporting, right? Especially the people who are there saying like, oh, anytime, second trimester, third trimester, whatever. I'm like, this is the reality of it. Let's get away from the fuzzy language and hiding around. This is what it is. So that just, from the intellectual perspective, I would have been was already pro-life. And then that just made it even more firm and clear so that in my head, when these conversations are even happening, I know what we're talking about. I also looked at, the gestational ages. Like, let me go back to let's go back to biology and literally see, when we're talking 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 20 weeks, what are we really talking about? So for example, I mean, in the UK, you can abort a child for any reason up until 24 weeks, right? Any reason. If they have any type of impediment or potential disability, this could be something as light as a cleft palate or cleft lip, then there's no limit, right? Canada has no limit all the way through. There's various places with, so different countries have set lines in different places, from outright criminalization to legal up through, week 39 or 40. So I wanted to just learn as much as possible. And again, listen to and have conversations with people, listen to different sides. I think it's probably when I first discovered some of you. I think the first time I ever heard you was on Dave Rubin, perhaps in 2019 or so. So, I was listening to Ben Shapiro's arguments. I was listening to, pro-choice arguments and listening to what people were saying. And it came back down to those two things I first mentioned. Either they deny that it's a human being and that it's alive, right? Which is just not honest. Or they're saying, and I think so many people do that because the second point is really from a moral and ethical perspective to say that it's okay to take an innocent human life, to say, okay, yes, this is a baby, but you should still be able to kill him or kill her. That doesn't sound nice, right? That doesn't sound like, even in someone's own heart who considers themselves like a good person and a moral person and whatever, like there are people who, will just be fully honest with it all and say that, but it does sound horrific and demonic. So I think a lot of people shy away from that and they're just like, nope, it's not a baby, because it's easier.
Right. And then the second thing is, you're saying there's two things of the humanity of the child, and then the second thing is that it's always wrong to kill, right? Which is what you're saying
It's
earlier.
always wrong to, I wouldn't say it's always wrong to kill.
To kill an innocent.
It's always wrong to kill an innocent.
But if they acknowledge the humanity, then they have to be okay with killing the innocent.
Yeah.
And no one wants to do that.
No.
But that's what it is.
Yeah, and if you accept that, then it also leads to dark roads, right? If you do say, actually, you know what, it is sometimes okay to kill innocent people, then you look at what's going on in Canada.
With euthanasia
Yeah.
as well.